It is 11:15 on the dot, and thank you all for joining me this morning. How many people enjoyed a small concert last night? Woo, woo, woo. All right, and some karaoke. Okay. I am so sorry I missed that, I have to say. All right, let's make sure you're in the right session. So we're here because it turns out being a member of an underrepresented group at work is kind of hard. Has anyone had this experience? Yes. Okay, a little bit. Being a member of an overrepresented group at work is kind of great because you can be an ally to folks who are underrepresented. And what does that really mean? And, when I look at it, it's not, everything should be 50-50. It's what's the percent of the population in the workforce in a particular group? And is that percent the same as it is at work? So that's how I define underrepresented versus an overrepresented. So that's really great, Mary, but who are you? All right, so the goal of the session, unless you think that you're in the dream pitch, okay, this is not the dream pitch. That's somewhere else upstairs in a little bit. You can be late. It's okay. But what we want to talk about is that at work, you can be an equality champion, and that will make your team stronger and help you build better apps. This is me and my family at Pride in San Francisco this past weekend, which was super fun. I still have the tattoos, as someone was noticing. Thank you. I'll do it again if you want. Charlie. Forget it. Okay. Thank you. So I've been at Salesforce for almost 12 years. And probably all of my career, I've been doing equality evangelism on the side, here and there. And just recently, I've taken on that title internally, and I hope that the outcome is that you have all had a very welcoming and inclusive experience here at Trailhead DX. All right. And that's really important to us as a company, right? Hopefully you've noticed that our executives speak out and speak up for equality. And it's super important to us as a company. And that's one of the things that I love. Like 12 years is a long time, right, in software years. And so that's one of the reasons that I stay here, right, is that we are prioritizing equality within our company and also trying to share that in what we're doing here at the event and in the sessions that we've had. We recognize that we are not perfect. No one is perfect. But it's where we are right now, and we really want to share the journey and kind of hear about your journey and come along with us. And to me, equality is just the right thing to do. Somebody described it to me the other day, and they just said, well, to me, Mary, it's just an issue of fairness. Like, that's all I see, And that was a straight white dude. He was just like, this is how I feel. It's about fairness. And to me, it's also about respect. Just how you treat other people. Turns out, it's also really good for your company. So if all those other things aren't motivators for you or your executives, it actually is, studies have shown, the business impact of equality. And most companies in tech have a disproportionate number of people in different groups. And so companies that can come closer to proportionate representation across race and gender and disability and the LGBTQ community, then those companies perform better, which was great to see. It also turns out that being open and clear about your core values is great for your employees. It's also great for your brand. I will pay more money for a Patagonia jacket because I know that they're really fighting for the environment, and they are vocal about that. It also turns out, we did a study, so I'm not sure about this, but I'm sure it's legit. If you're open about your core values, your employees are happier at work, and they say nice things about you, and so that's important. But for me, it's about just really being comfortable at work and knowing that I'm supported and that I will have the same opportunities as someone who's overrepresented in the workforce. And for me, at the end of the day, it's diversity of thought that makes a better team. So I work by myself in my home in New Jersey. with my big whiteboard wall. And sometimes I'm just writing on the whiteboard wall all by myself. And it's not really that great. It's much better to be in a room full of smart people arguing about what to write on the whiteboard, right, as opposed to agreeing about what to write on the whiteboard. And that to me is how ideas really get turned into really great products. So what I did before this, before I was an evangelist, was I was a product manager on the Salesforce platform. We argued about a lot of things, a lot of the tools you're using today. How should they be designed? What's the easiest way that this is going to work? What are all those requirements? And I loved doing that with other people. So it just makes it stronger when you have diversity of thought. So, but even if you have a diverse team, how do you make sure all those ideas are getting shared? Everyone is bringing their best self and feels comfortable sharing themselves and sharing their ideas. And that's really what I want to talk about, is like building a better team. I think that understanding other people, having empathy for where they might be coming from or what their opinions are, is really important to building a strong team. And I think we need to be aware of the dynamics, right? You don't want to go to the dream pitch. You want to stay here. Okay. Being aware of the dynamics on the team, is so-and-so the only woman in the room? The only person of color in the room? Like, just understanding that those dynamics matter when people come into work, I think really helps, as you're building a team and as you're working with your team. And to do that, kind of have to think about privilege. And that's something I want to touch on. It's really the starting point for creating an environment where your team can thrive. And so I stole this from a gentleman named Justin Ford. There's a great talk about privilege. And, what I took away with it is like, I went into it thinking, well, I'm a woman, so I'm like super oppressed. I'm a lesbian, I'm like way oppressed. I can't even get married. Oh, wait, now I can get married, so everything's good. But looking at this chart, you can see the areas where you have privilege and where you don't, but there's always something that you have, right? So I have ability privilege. So, I can be aware of that. I have race privilege. I have religion privilege. Probably I don't have a religion. I don't know if that's a good or bad. But I want you to think about it as a continuum, that it's not just like you're in one bucket, but there are all of these buckets. And think about that also for your team. This is a dev conference, so here's my architecture diagram. You may notice that it is a rainbow. That's on purpose. Okay, sorry. So this is Maslow's law. I'm going to read this from here because I wrote it down. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a theory in psychology proposed by Abraham Maslow and probably his wife in 1943. So safety is the most important thing right after physical survival needs. So again, assuming your coworkers have a roof over their head and they have food and they, got dressed to come to work, feeling safe is the next level. And so people cannot perform as their best selves if they're not feeling safe. And right now, a lot of people aren't feeling safe at work, right? We have all these rules for physical safety. Wear a helmet, wear closed-toed shoes. But what are the emotional safety types of things that we need to be aware of? And that's what I want to think about. And it really is, like I said, like you can have a diverse team, but if people don't feel welcome, they don't feel invited to dance, then they are not going to perform as their best selves. So, my story about that is that I used to live in Oakland, very diverse place. I moved to the middle of New Jersey, small town, 2,500 people. I know most of them. But when we moved there, I was like, wow, will I be welcome there? Are there other families that look like me or not? And I was super nervous. I also was curious to know if they had good pizza and good bagels. So turns out we moved in next to another lesbian couple, which was great. But that was it. That was like the whole town. And the pizza's decent, and the bagels are about 10 minutes away. So I stayed there. And so far, no one has run screaming or said their kids can't come over. But that was, I'm going into that situation. I have to work there, right? I have to feel comfortable, moving about. So again, coming to work, I have not felt uncomfortable coming to work as a lesbian for like the past 12 years. But before that, it was hey, Mary, what'd you do this weekend? You're like, nothing at all. Right? You don't talk about your life. So, think about how people are feeling and whether they're feeling comfortable sharing themselves at work. Oh, good. Yeah. This is my favorite part. Okay. All right. Are you ready? All right. So, uncomfortable group activity. And again, yes, it is totally, totally optional. If you want to do it or not, whatever. Lindsay wants to do it, I know. Lindsay's already done it. Okay, so we're going to take 2 minutes, get to know each other a little bit in this intimate setting. And I want you to turn to the person next to you and take turns sharing a story. One person talks, the other person listens. You are also going to practice active listening, which has to do with listening, not talking, listening. Just listen to their story. And I want you to tell each other stories about a time when you felt excluded. All right, so we're talking a lot about inclusion. It's really interesting to talk about, this was a time when I didn't feel included, where I felt excluded. Ready, set, go. So I'm thinking about just taking the next 15 minutes off and letting you all just hang out together. But I do have more stuff to say. How did that go? Yeah? Did it go so well that somebody wants to share a story? I'm going to go with, you're going to share a story that someone told you? Not your story. You're going to share your partner's story? No. I don't have a mic. Do we have another mic? We may not. Do we have a mic? Thank you. All right, so they tell me with the group share, then you share back out. I'm not a fan of group sharing, I just gotta tell you. So thank you for doing it. That was really kind of cool to see everybody pair up and talk. So what I'd love to hear is, did somebody tell you a story that was really powerful, that really kind of surprised you? You're like, oh, that person never feels excluded, or, I never really thought about it from that perspective. So does anyone want to share? What does Charlie Isaacs feel?
So it was just more of his experience.
Closer.
More of his experience with exclusion. I didn't know Charlie used to play football. So he used to hang out with a lot of people, people that look like me, people of color, on the football team, and just his experiences with the exclusion that they would feel, and then wanting to drive around the city of Oakland at night and telling Charlie he had to drive because they didn't want to get pulled over. So anyway.
Boom. Yeah, driving privilege. Brandon.
All right, I'm going to share Toya's story here. She came to Dreamforce,
Closer.
Huh? 2010, all right. And looking around a conference of tens of thousands of people, she is a woman of color in technology, saw, maybe 5 or 6 people that looked like her. So very lonely experience.
Okay. Anybody else? One more story? All right. All right. Look, you came in late and jumped in, and you have a story?
Yeah, it's because I feel included in this group, so I wanted to join right in. But actually, so I think we're all sharing stories about other people's that we heard, and I'd like to share Emily's story if that's okay. Emily was on a team. Man, now I can't screw this up. So Emily was on a team, and they would often invite her out to join their offsites in happy hours, which she was really happy that she was being invited to these happy hours, but just drinking wasn't her thing. And so she figured or hoped that after a series of continuing invites to drink, it's like, that's not really my thing, but they just kept doing that rather than finding an activity that could have suited everyone's needs.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of our groups, one of our employee resource groups used to do happy hours and has just started doing breakfast, right? Who eats breakfast? Almost everyone. Okay, so not everybody drinks, it turns out. And I don't drink, but I learned that you have to go to the happy hours anyway because that's where the people are. And that's where the relationships get built. All right, wow, thank you. That's amazing. And my, call to action is to be champions. It sounds like I might have a room full of champions right here, equality champions. And, we're all on a journey. I'm on a journey. I learn something new every week, if not every day. Last night I spent some time with the vet force members. I have not been in the military. I have all of my assumptions, right, about what it's like to be in the military. What do you look like if you're in the military? And so some of those were really shattered last night. So I recommend, asking people about their experience. I also highly recommend. Is anyone familiar with Trailhead? Okay. Has anyone familiar with the Cultivate Equality at Work trail on Trailhead? I do have stickers if you want some. Not on my person because it was bulky. But, I have them over there. If you haven't earned any of the badges in the Cultivate Equality Trail, you can go right over to the Quick Start and we can hook you up. So there's still time in the day. But in that trail, the 4th module is called Equality Ally Strategies. It came out just the beginning of this year and has a lot of tips in it for what to do, right? People would say to me, Mary, okay, I'm in. I want to be an ally. I want to be a champion. I want to make my team stronger. I want to understand, how everybody's feeling. What do you want me to do? So we wrote all that down. But we are going to talk about some of the things that we do. You're showing up, right? Thank you. But the 2 other things I like to talk about a lot are 6 and 7, which are diversifying your circle and sharing your privilege. So just real quickly, going back to that privilege continuum, where do you fall? Which groups are you in? Where do you have privilege? Where do you not have privilege? And then where are the people on your team in this continuum? So, and thinking about your circle, right? Who do you work with? Who is your friend group? Who are you following on social media, right? What inputs are you getting during the day about what's going on in the world or what's happening with other people? And if you look at that and they all look like you, think about that, right? And intentionally go out of your way to start following someone who doesn't look like you and opening yourself up to other media, and then, maybe asking somebody to coffee or making, a gesture to just kind of get to know somebody better to expand that circle. And then if you do have privilege in some area, then thinking about sharing that privilege, right? So if you get invited to speak at conferences, first of all, I always look at the lineup, right? I look and see, well, who are the other speakers and who's overrepresented and who's underrepresented? And then, if I'm a part of the overrepresented group, maybe I don't need to speak at that conference. Maybe I need to suggest another speaker, right, to diversify that lineup. Or maybe ask somebody to join me. So thinking about sharing the stage, sharing your privilege, that's kind of not everyone is speaking at conferences, right? But you can also do that at work. Hey, that's a really great project. I would love to work on that with, Reed or, whoever. And so, bringing in people and sharing, if you're getting that kind of that privilege of being noticed or being overrepresented, bringing that in and sharing that with other folks, depending on where you fall in that continuum. So those are just two of the tips, and I would say to check out the module for more, plug for the module, get the stickers, and just I want to wrap with thanking everybody for spending the time here at the conference. I see some faces that I've seen at the other sessions and other events, and I'm just super excited. I hope everyone does feel included and welcome, and that you have learned some things that you can bring back to your companies, but also that you feel more confident and you feel like you can go back to work and be proudly you. Has anyone seen the video? Right? Come on, I'm not going to play it now, but you should totally check it out. And we put this video together internally as a campaign to encourage people to bring their full selves to work and to not make assumptions, all right, about what might be somebody else's truth. So I definitely, if you have already seen it, just watch it over and over again, because that's what I do. And I kind of tear up each time. And the other thing I do to remind me to stay proudly me is I look at this picture a lot, all right, from my old days on Instagram. This is my son, and I hope that I can, be like my son, and that I hope actually that he remains confidently weird in his fine little self as he grows up. So I send you all off to go be confidently weird. Thank you very much.